I was like 12 when I first watched Unbreakable, had it on VHS, and I loved it. It wasn't what I expected, but I loved it, and it's still my favorite M. Night Shyamalan movie. And then years later, Split came out, and I didn't know it was a sequel until Bruce Willis showed up. But I liked it, thought it was pretty good, and I loved the cameo. And now with this one the trilogy is complete, and well, it's a pretty good movie too. I don't think it's anywhere near as good as Unbreakable, even from just a filmmaking perspective, but I think it's sorta on par with Split, probably a little bit worse. But I still liked it, it's a perfectly enjoyable movie and a decent end to the trilogy. But it's definitely not great and there are some issues with it. It did feel sorta clunky at times and some of the plot points felt a bit iffy. And the pacing, well, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. I guess first of all I expected something a little bit more action-packed. I feel like the end of Split kind of set up a scenario where things could get wild. But this is a pretty slow movie. Most of it is just people sitting around talking about, what's going on with these three characters, these would-be superheroes. Which on one hand I should have expected, since the other two movies are pretty slow too. But I just thought the grand finale would be a lot more action-packed. On the other hand, I sorta appreciate that it took this approach. Because this franchise is pretty much the antithesis to most modern superhero movies. It took this more grounded and subtle, down-to-earth approach. Even back before Spider-Man and the X-Men kicked it all off for Marvel. And it stayed in its lane, kept it pretty consistent, so I can't hate on that. It's pretty refreshing to be honest, so I didn't really mind the slow pace. But it still felt like it could have probably been a bit tighter. But overall that wasn't really an issue for me, but there were some other problems. Mainly Sarah Paulson's character. Not a great character, and I don't think she was right for the role. But the even bigger issue for me was the whole plot she was a part of. Later in the movie. That whole thing came across as sorta silly to me and I didn't think it was handled very well. But I will say that the whole hospital idea and her role in it was pretty great. I liked how they messed with the characters and the audience too. It really had me thinking back at the previous movies going, wait a minute, could it really be? Probably not. But is it? No. But what if? I thought the way they handled that part was really clever and effective. However, the whole meta story here was just kinda meh to me. It was alright, but nothing all that mind-blowing or impressive. And I feel like it probably got a bit too convoluted for its own good. You could have probably streamlined the whole thing, got rid of one or two twists and turns there at the end. It wasn't that hard to follow, but it just felt a bit unnecessary. Like Shyamalan really thought he needed to tie every little thing together. Which I don't think he needed to do. It would have worked well enough anyway. So how about the technical aspects? Well, they're fine, mostly. I've always been a fan of Shyamalan's techniques, but this one didn't impress me that much. It looks fine, sounds fine, the editing's fine, nothing really stood out to me though. And as far as the acting goes, Jackson's Jackson. Not his best performance, but very decent. Bruce Willis is probably the least impressive of the bunch, but still fine. But let's be honest here, this is James McAvoy's show, from start to finish. I mean, what he does with all those different characters is impressive. Just how he changes his whole physiology and posture for each one is great. I mean, you know exactly which one he is by just looking at him. He doesn't even need to speak. That's kinda remarkable and I don't think he gets enough credit for it. But yeah, overall it's a good, enjoyable movie, but I think 3 is enough. So would I recommend this? Sure. I mean, you'll probably want to see the other 2 first though. But go check it out. Or don't. I'm not your super dad.